Okay, before we get on to sensors, I just want to make a quick correction to a couple things that I said yesterday that weren't quite right in the video. The first is I mentioned that the microcontroller is sending 5 volts to the relay. Actually, it's sending 3.3 volts. So just a minor correction. This works fine in both the field and on our bench test. 3.3 volts is triggering the transistor that's engaging those switches. It's just something that I said incorrectly in the video yesterday, so I wanted to correct myself. The second thing is I cleaned up this code a little bit. So when we have these messages that are coming through on the serial terminal telling you that valve 1 has current, valve 2 has current, I put them before the delay so that the logic makes sense with what's actually happening if you're tracking things via the relay. So just a couple minor corrections. I just wanted to capture that in video format, clear that up, and just so that we make sure that that's documented properly. All right, folks, so let's go ahead and break this down to the next piece, which is actually talking to this little Teros sensor. So we've got the Teros sensor. It's basically powered off this little power rail right here, which is receiving 12 volts from a wall wart. So as long as the wall wart is plugged in, the sensor is receiving power. I also have the data pin that's basically wired up, running underneath the little relay, and it's going to pin 11 on our setup right here. So what I've done is I've basically taken the code that was provided to us, and I just broke out that part that talks to the sensor. Okay, so since we're only dealing with one sensor, you can see here that I've commented out the 4 sensors that were identified initially in code, and I just have one sensor set to an address of 1, or I should say, looking for a sensor on an address of 1. So everything is basically set up accordingly. What I've done is I've created this little echo data function. And what this does is it calls subfunctions measurement output, which calls take value, which receives return value from take measurement. So these are 3 functions that need to be included to basically generate a raw 1 and a VWC1 output right here. And then all that is basically just echoed back to the screen. Okay? If the sensor's working, if everything is wired up properly, if everything is properly addressed, this should work. So let's go ahead and upload it. And something that I learned is with these little Adafruit MO feather boards, if it just kind of hangs and it's not doing anything, I'll show you a trick. Like if it just gets stuck on uploading, what you can do is you can come over here to the reset button and double click. And then that seems to get it out of whatever hang up it's got. Okay. So we should be able to go to, now that everything's done uploading, and we should be able to see some data. And here's our first problem, is VWC is negative 0.70, which suggests that the sensor is not connected. Actually, I think what the problem is the sensor is not properly addressed. So if you come over here, you see that I've got it addressed at that first address. It should be identified as 1 by the SDI library. So it doesn't, maybe it's identified with something else. So I went into the documentation. What I did was I found this. If you go under examples and you come to SDI 12, let's see, where is it right here? There's all these sample codes. One is check all addresses. I haven't had any luck running this. This just basically hangs the system. But I did find this address change sketch. And let me go ahead and open up that sketch for you real quick. I've got it actually set over here to work with the right pin. Okay, so this is the sketch that's included with the library. Here, I set the data pin to 11, which is how it's currently wired in the field. Power pin is -1, which means that I'm independently powering this off a wall wart. Okay, so there's no power going to the sensor off any given pin. So what this is going to do if we upload it is it's going to scan for any sensors that are attached and powered to that microcontroller. So now if we go to serial monitor, you can see here that I've got this opening SDI-12 checking address 0 occupied. So it looks like it's recognizing this sensor on address 0. And this gives you an opportunity to enter a new address. Now recall that in my little sketch over here, I've got it set to 1. So let's see if we can reset this to 1. So I'm going to go over here to the serial terminal. I'm going to hit 1. When I hit return, it says it's readdressing the sensor, success, rescanning, but it doesn't look like it's stuck because it says checking 0 occupied. So even though I've readdressed the sensor, it's still thinking that it's on address 0. I've gone over this for about an hour now. I can't figure this out. I've gone to the documentation, and the way this should work is after it does readdressing sensor followed by success, rescanning for verification, the scan will begin again, stopping at your new address. And it's not stopping at our new address. It looks like it's just hung up on 0. I can't get past this. This is something Jahir probably did for the 4 sensors that are at Biosphere right now. I don't know how he did this. I don't have anything to refer to. I'm assuming this is what he did for those 4 sensors. It appears he had success because his sketch works, but I don't have any further details. So it could be that this sensor's faulty, but that's where we are right now. If everything is working properly, if the sensor is plugged in via wall wart and everything is wired up properly, which it is here because I can in fact see the sensor, I should be able to readdress it and then properly refer to it in code. Now, one thing I thought was, just to get through this hump, what happens if I change this to 0? If I change it to 0, I get the same result. It basically just comes back with this 0 and VWC is equal to -0.70, like it's not working. I came over here, and in looking at this documentation, it says right here, sensor can also be programmed with an address of 0, but that address cannot always be used to get measurements from the sensor. So that may be why we're not getting any measurements here. So that's as far as I was able to get on the troubleshooting for this. So right now where we are is we have a sketch that breaks down the sensor part of the code. I know it's working. But the problem seems to be with addressing the sensor. I can't get it to work with a specific address. I don't know how this was done, so we're stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this off on Thursday so some other students can take a closer look at this, maybe see what I'm doing wrong. And I'm also going to provide a spreadsheet with all the code that's been developed, where it came from, and I'm also going to give you a directory, this Biosphere directory. And if you look at this Biosphere directory, there is, I'm going to give you this one right here, which has all the code that I've been summarizing in video format and trying to document and break down for you. The 2 pieces of code that are the most important, actually the 3, is the solenoids code, which I demonstrated yesterday, that's working fine. The sensor code, which we're stuck on right now, and then we've got the address change on the B address change mapped to pin 11, which is how this is wired up, that shows that my sensor is in fact being recognized, but I can't change the address on it. I'm just going to provide this whole directory to you, and then we'll see how this comes together in a few days.